Hi everyone! Welcome back to When Voices Break. Before we begin, please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a story that will touch your heart. Today's story is about trust, betrayal, and a shocking secret a daughter-in-law tried to hide from the person who loved her the most. Stay with me, because every twist will keep you on the edge of your seat. I never imagined that a person I welcomed into my home could one day threaten the happiness of my entire family. My son, David, had always been my pride and joy. From the moment he was born, I dreamed of seeing him happy, surrounded by love, and living a life I could only hope to provide him. I raised him with care, often sacrificing my own comfort, believing that a mother's love was endless and unquestionable. When Sarah entered our lives, I was cautious but hopeful. She seemed kind, polite, and respectful, a perfect match for David. I told myself, this is good for him, someone who will love him, care for him, and build a life together. The first few months were blissful. Sarah smiled often, brought thoughtful gifts, helped around the house, and even called me Mom in front of David. My heart swelled with happiness. Finally, I thought, my son's life was complete. But subtle changes began to appear. Sarah would comment on my cooking, tilting her head sweetly, saying, "Mom, this recipe is fine, but maybe David would like something lighter." At first, I ignored it, thinking she only wanted to help, but it kept happening. One evening, I had planned a quiet birthday dinner. Just the three of us, David, Sarah, and me. I spent hours preparing his favorite dishes, set the table carefully, lit a small candle. It should have been a perfect night. Later, I overheard Sarah whispering to David, "Mom doesn't care about what we want. She only thinks about herself." My heart sank. She was twisting my love for my son, turning it into something ugly in his eyes. That night, I cried quietly in the kitchen, wondering how someone could smile so sweetly while planting seeds of mistrust. The weeks that followed were tense. Sarah began taking subtle control of the house. She suggested changing furniture, redecorating rooms, even rearranging family photos. David, trusting her judgment, often agreed without consulting me. Each time, it felt like a small erosion of the home I had built with love. Then came the notes, small folded papers with Sarah's handwriting, left carelessly on the kitchen counter or in David's study. "Mom doesn't understand us. She shouldn't be making decisions for us." Simple words, but they carried a storm. I realized she was planning to isolate me from my own family, and David had no idea. I tried to speak to him gently, explaining my feelings without sounding accusatory. But whenever I did, Sarah would be nearby, smiling innocently, and he would brush off my concerns. "Mom, you're imagining things. Sarah loves this family," he said one evening. I wanted to believe him, I really did. But the uneasy feeling in my stomach told me otherwise. One afternoon, I overheard her talking on the phone with a friend. Her laugh was soft, chilling. "I just need him to think I'm perfect. Once that's done, the rest will be easy," she said. I froze. My worst fears were coming true. She wasn't just manipulative, she was plotting. It started with small things, missing receipts, odd phone calls, vague excuses for money spent. She began insisting that certain bills should be her responsibility, but would casually hint that I wasn't handling things correctly. One evening, she said in front of David, "Mom, you're so sweet, but sometimes you try to do too much. Let us handle it." I smiled, but inside my heart was tightening. Her tone was so polite, so convincing, but I felt the manipulation underneath. She was planting doubt in David's mind about me. I tried to stay calm, to maintain a loving relationship, but the tension in our home was growing. Every decision, every conversation seemed to be watched, analyzed, and turned against me. Then, I made a discovery that would change everything. It was a quiet afternoon. I was helping David organize his paperwork when I noticed some bank statements left open on the computer. Curiosity pried me closer, and then my blood ran cold. Sarah had taken out a loan in David's name without his knowledge. She had plans to buy a property in her name alone. My son had no idea. She was planning to isolate him from me and control the finances, slowly taking over everything I had helped build. I confronted David gently. Showing him the documents, I said, "David, look at this. I think you need to know." His eyes widened in disbelief. "Mom, I had no idea. I trusted her," he whispered, voice shaking. Sarah, sensing the confrontation, tried to defend herself. "I only did what I thought was best for us," she said, with tears welling up in her eyes. But the evidence was undeniable. I realized then that I had two choices: step aside and let her manipulate my family, or fight for the love and trust I had built over decades. I chose the latter. After discovering Sarah's secret loan, the house became a battlefield I had to navigate carefully. Every smile she gave me felt calculated, every word carefully chosen. Even David seemed to waver between trusting me and believing her, his love for her blinding him to the truth I could see so clearly. Sarah became bolder. She would make subtle comments in front of David about how overbearing I was, how I needed to give them space. She would laugh lightly, like it was harmless advice, but I could feel the tension in my chest grow. One afternoon, she invited her friends over without telling me. They all complimented her, casually agreeing that I did too much and needed to step back. I stayed quiet, smiling politely, but my heart ached. Every word felt like a knife, cutting into the foundation of our family. I realized I needed to act, not with anger, but with careful strategy. I began documenting every interaction, every suspicious message, every subtle manipulation. I couldn't allow her to turn my son against me completely. Weeks later, I decided to confront Sarah directly. I waited until David was at work, so the confrontation would be private. My hands trembled slightly as I spoke, but my voice remained calm. "Sarah," I began, "I know about the loan. I know you've been manipulating our family. Why are you doing this?" She smiled sweetly, tilting her head, pretending innocence. "I'm only trying to help our family. You've always done too much. I just want things to be easier." "Easier?" I asked, incredulous. "You've taken out a loan in David's name without him knowing. You're trying to take control of our family, isolate me, and manipulate him. How is that helping?" Her smile faltered for just a second, but she quickly recovered. "Mom, I only did what I thought was best. You don't understand our life. David and we need to make decisions on our own." I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "Making decisions on your own doesn't mean betraying your family. You can't manipulate him to see me as an enemy. That is not love. That is control." She said nothing, just stared at me, a flash of fear crossing her eyes before her usual mask returned. Days later, I uncovered more evidence of her manipulation. Hidden emails, messages to friends boasting about how she was winning over David completely, and even plans to sell portions of the house to herself without my consent. I knew I had to act carefully. If I went to David with only my words, he might doubt me. But with proof, the truth would be undeniable. The moment of revelation came during a family gathering. Relatives, neighbors, and friends were present. I spoke calmly, presenting every piece of evidence. The loan documents, emails, hidden messages. I laid it all on the table, letting the truth speak louder than words ever could. David's face turned pale. He looked from me to Sarah, unable to believe the woman he loved could betray him and our entire family. Sarah's facade finally cracked. "David, it's not what it looks like," she stammered, panic flashing in her eyes. "Not what it looks like," I said, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and sadness. "Sarah, you planned this. You manipulated our family, turned my son against me, and tried to take everything for yourself. Do you even understand what that means?" Her silence confirmed everything. I realized then that the woman I had welcomed as family had tried to destroy everything I held dear. David sank into a chair, staring at her. I trusted you, Sarah," he whispered. "I believed you loved me, believed you wanted the best for us." Tears welled in my eyes, but I held myself steady. "David, love does not manipulate, does not deceive, does not destroy. Love protects. Love builds trust, not schemes." Sarah tried to speak, but no one listened. Every relative, every friend present could see the truth in her eyes. Her plan had failed. The web of lies she had spun was unraveling before everyone. In that moment, I realized that justice was not about revenge. It was about truth. The moment the truth came out, Sarah could no longer control, manipulate, or hurt us. Sarah was forced to face the consequences. The bank reversed the fraudulent loan. Legal actions ensured that she could not exploit our family further. And finally, she left our home, stripped of the mask she had worn so perfectly. David came to me later, hugging me tightly. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I should have trusted you from the beginning. I see her for who she really is now." I held him close, my heart aching but filled with relief. "It's okay, David. We learn through mistakes. What matters is that we protect what's important, the family we've built together." The house was quiet for the first time in months. Tension faded slowly, replaced with understanding and careful rebuilding of trust. I often think back to those months, the fear, the sleepless nights, the constant anxiety. I realized something important. Love without vigilance can be dangerous, but courage and truth are stronger than betrayal. David now understood that honesty and protection go hand in hand. And as for Sarah, I hope she learned that manipulation can only succeed until the truth is revealed. Our family was not perfect. The scars of betrayal remained. But the bond between mother and son, strengthened by truth and honesty, was stronger than ever. The days after Sarah left felt strangely quiet. I would sit in my favorite chair in the living room, staring at the spaces she had occupied. Not out of longing, but out of disbelief that someone who had seemed so kind could manipulate our family so completely. David tried to make amends, doing small things that reminded me of his care. Helping in the kitchen, sharing coffee with me in the morning, even just sitting and talking about the past months. I appreciated it, but I also knew that rebuilding trust takes time. Not just for David, but for the entire family. I began reflecting on the warning signs I had ignored. The little comments, the subtle undermining, the smiles that didn't reach the eyes. I realized that intuition is a mother's silent guide, and when ignored, it can allow danger to creep in unnoticed. I remembered the first time Sarah had subtly tried to isolate me from David's life. It had seemed innocent at the time, insisting that certain chores were better handled by David, suggesting I let them make decisions on their own. I had smiled politely, believing she meant well, but now, in hindsight, every act was a step in a carefully planned strategy. Every word, every gesture, every small manipulation, it all pointed to one thing: control. I also remembered how she had befriended neighbors and family friends, making herself appear generous and loving, while subtly discrediting me in private conversations. It was an intricate web, one that she had spun to gain power over the people I loved most. David had changed too. He had always been kind-hearted, trusting, and sometimes too naive. But the truth about Sarah had opened his eyes. He began seeing the small inconsistencies, remembering the moments I had tried to warn him, and understanding the subtle ways she had manipulated him. One evening, he came to me quietly, almost embarrassed by the past months. "Mom, I can't believe I didn't see it sooner," he said, voice shaking. "I trusted her completely, and I doubted you." I reached out and held his hands. David, love is not always clear. Sometimes people can hide behind masks. What matters is that we face the truth and move forward together. He nodded, tears in his eyes. I promise. I won't let anything like this happen again. In the weeks that followed, we slowly rebuilt our routines. Family dinners returned, laughter filled the house again, and David and I spent more time together than ever before. I even allowed myself small pleasures I had neglected during the stressful months. Tending the garden, hosting neighbors for tea, and reconnecting with old friends. Life, though scarred, was returning to its natural rhythm. But I remained cautious. I knew that someone like Sarah might try to re-enter our lives in the future. And though the legal and financial consequences had been enforced, the emotional scars needed attention. I realized that trust is both a gift and a responsibility. To love blindly can be dangerous, but to approach relationships with vigilance does not mean cynicism. It means care. I thought about other mothers, other families, and how easily deception can hide behind a smile. It made me more aware, more protective, but also more empathetic. I understood that people sometimes act out of ambition, fear, or selfishness, and it is our role to protect what is right while still holding on to love. Looking at David, I felt a swell of pride. He had learned a hard lesson, but he had grown stronger because of it. And I had learned that a mother's instincts, when trusted, can safeguard the family, even when the heart wants to believe otherwise. One evening, as we sat in the living room together, David looked at me and said, "Mom, you saved this family. You saved me." I hugged him tightly. "No, David." We saved each other. That's what family is, standing together through every trial, every storm, and in that moment, I felt peace. The house was filled with warmth, laughter, and the quiet strength of truth. The shadow Sarah had cast over our lives was gone, replaced by honesty, understanding, and love that was stronger for having been tested. If this story touched your heart or kept you on the edge of your seat, please give it a like and subscribe to When Voices Break. Hit the notification bell so you never miss another story of love, betrayal, and truth. Remember, sometimes the ones we trust the most can hurt us, but the truth always finds a way to shine. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next story.